Thank you, my mighty companions, all the brothers in service of translation, of hosting, co-hosting, of making everyone feeling welcome here. And thank you for that light that you bring with you and you share, not just here in this room with those few hundred people, but really to share with the entire universe, to share with everyone who only exists and lives in your mind, in you, and as you, as me. And I couldn't start out maybe in a better way than to add on this greeting a song for which we need to pause the recording because that song that came in is not public domain, but it is a very well-known song. Danke schön. Thank you. And as we are saying, hello, good morning, good afternoon, welcome, buenos dias, buenas tardes, einen wunderschönen Nachmittag oder einen wunderschönen Abend oder Morgen. And
die deutsche Übersetzung?
Carlo Agogevma, I think is the correct expression in Greek. Let's just share for a moment this wonderful song. And bye-bye. Let's just express that to each other for a moment, and we just might open up the microphones for that. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Dankeschön.
Good evening, good afternoon. Nice to see.
And that thank you, bye-bye, is actually the absolute greeting and call of awakening. And why wouldn't we say thank you, bye-bye? Or to say hello, aloha. No? And you do it in the same moment. You know? It is all simultaneously. You greet and you're saying welcome, and you're saying I love you, thank you, and you actually give your bye-bye of leaving time-space, of leaving perception. And there is no love without gratitude. Always remember that gratitude is absolutely an expression of a true love, of understanding love in a true sense. Okay, I think yeah, good with the microphones, okay? And also, thank you, Andreas, for yesterday doing 1 Corinthians 13. And I actually had took this Bible yesterday morning in my hand, and I looked it up and I read some of it. And for me, it is absolutely the message that Jesus has given us for the last 2000 years in demonstrating that love has really nothing to do with what we are bringing with us as human beings, coming from an attitude of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Yes, it is absolute forgiveness and also only a forgiving mind will express gratitude. And if we just pick out one sentence of this First Corinthians letter at the very beginning, where he says, "And though I have the gift of prophecy," prophecy could also mean I have the gift of expressing myself in teaching and understand all mysteries, understand all secrets of life, all secrets of the world. And I have all knowledge, or I understand all knowledge, all that was given me in studying, in education, educating myself towards simply a better human being. And here it is. And though I have all faith, I have faith in God, I do all the right thing, I'm with the right rituals, I'm going to the right temples and churches, I'm following the law so that I could remove mountains, which we all have learned and have tried. And here's the bummer, so to speak. But if I have not love, I am nothing. If I do not live love, if I do not experience love, if I do not recognize you as myself, as love, I have nothing, I am nothing, I do not exist. And I think it's a one sentence that really is so extraordinary that would be the guidance for all transformational experiences throughout all times, and sum it up in the way that without an experience of God, without feeling the love, joy, happiness, and peace of God in me, I have not arrived anywhere. I have not understood any teaching. I have not transformed completely. I do not know who I am. And so the teaching of A Course in Miracles, given us by Christ Jesus, Christ mind, is exactly that purpose. Directs us to give us everything so that we no longer value what is valueless, but really get to know who we really are. Experience ourselves beyond perception. Experience ourselves in a light that is not of this world. Experience ourselves in the miracles that surround us, and naturally correct the way of seeing, the way of thinking. This is a welcome call home. This is a call to go beyond perception. This is a call to recognize ourself, the one single self in which we were created, perfect, whole, without a spot of sin, completely free of guilt, eternally what our Creator is, love itself. So love is true self-recognition. We just had a lesson not so long ago, lesson number 139. I will accept atonement for myself. I will accept the correction of my thinking for myself. And this is a key lesson in teaching to know who I am, who you are. Now, to the title of our event, I had some first and second thoughts. It just floods in and comes into my mind. Love at first sight. And immediately the voice in my head told me, but what about love at second sight? And what about love at no sight? Love at the last sight. And I was touching that in the introduction when we all came together for the first session. And I will share my thoughts with you about that. We all know that love works in whatever side, because love will remain love and is love, no matter what. The question is only what the mind that experiences love makes up in connection with his perceptual world. Because the love on first sight or on second sight relies on an object. It is only that the love at no sight or at last sight refers to myself, to yourself. And referring to myself means it does offer a subjective reality. It makes a subjective reality and no longer an objective reality. We could also say the love at first sight is really our testimony of falling in love. Everybody knows how to fall in love. There's nobody here who has not ever fallen in love. Otherwise, raise your hand and make yourself noticed. Here in America, they're also saying to fall for somebody. When you express that you fall in love with somebody, you fall for that guy, for that girl, for that woman. Interesting that the word falling is there, because it indicates that I'm falling out of my concepts, right? We all know what falling in love means and how it feels. And we know that we don't get it together anymore. We don't even know what day it is. We don't know if it is morning, afternoon, or night. We don't know if the sun is shining or if it is raining. And we don't care, because there's only the experience of love predominant in the consciousness. And so falling in love involves, of course, the physiological mechanisms I will not stop also sharing that with you as a medical guy. There is included neurohormonal things that happen in the body that you could express. Oh, you're just in your hormones so and so, and that's why you're in love, right? But in truth, nobody really knows. There is an activation in the brain, absolutely, but we're going a step further. When we fall in love, we actually say that we are touching God. And why are we touching God? Because there is no attention and focus laid on the self-concept and on that definition, who I am as a human being with all this baggage carried along for thousands of years. Everything put nicely into place in separation. And then when the 48 hours or 72 hours have passed after that falling in love, and some of you are already smiling with me, they're saying, when reality dawns again. That means when you're getting back to normal, right? On the physiological level. And you're looking at that person you were just falling in love, that object. Remember what we said? Object, you need an object. And you might think, but who is that person? I have a completely different memory of that person when I was falling in love. And as we know, of course, the judgmental mind kicks in and will add some attributes that just bolster the separation, strengthen that separates us. Gone is unity. Gone is gratitude. Gone is the willingness to give everything for that moment. And yet, even this type of feeling of falling in love at first sight can be completely transformative. Can be a breakthrough in one's life. Can be a collapse of time-space continuum that doesn't allow the individual to recover in the old way. But mostly, as time goes by, the human mind settles for another way of dealing with that, dealing with love, and decides to go for love at second sight, which simply means that doubt is accepted. The mind looks for a commitment very carefully. The advantages and disadvantages are compared and put on the scale. Looked at if it is worth entering into that relationship or making that relationship a committed relationship. I'm just here describing what we all know, okay? We are just reviewing here the human consciousness and how we act within those concepts. So love at second sight would mean, let's get together and work that out. Let's go along and see how we experience ourselves. Let's not take abrupt decisions. Let's give it some time, right? Am I correct with that? Yes? Everybody raise their hands. Okay, I'm alone with that experience. Okay, a few ones are with me. And you could also, we could say that love at second sight is the attempt to develop love. So I basically stay in control and be also in control of the process of development. And then, so God will, we will get together, or we will see. Yeah. Well, just that you know, God doesn't really care how we forge our relationships, but He cares that we are in love. And if we decide to, I use the word consciously, to cultivate love, because that's what it is. It becomes a form of exchange. It becomes a form of bargain. It becomes a form of negotiating with each other. And since we are all familiar with that, over thousands and thousands of years, we did that in any and every tribal community. We feel safe and we feel kind of, that must be the way. But if we want to arrive to go beyond an objective reality, if we are ready, the workbook of A Course in Miracles right now in these review lessons of 121 to 140 speaks of readiness, and that we are ready, that my mind holds only what I think with God. Then we are willing and ready to go beyond perceptual world, beyond the meaning of an objective reality and our connection, relationship with that objective reality. And I know that you all had a full day, most of you, except we here in the Americans, North and South, have just started our day. But you in European sector had already many, many sessions. And so I hope it's not too much to elaborate and also add some more understanding to that idea, instead of just being in the demonstration of Danke schön, auf Wiedersehen, thank you, bye-bye, because that is the answer. Only a mind transformed will stay in an expression of complete gratitude without any reason. There was and is and will not be any reason to be grateful. We can be grateful just because of what has been given. What has been given us? We thank our Father for his gifts, for the love, joy, and peace that we receive and share with his communication, in his communication. And so the only problem that we have as humans with love at first or second sight is that there is a companion walking with us that is an unseen companion, but he is still there. That is an maybe mostly unrecognized phantom that doesn't want to leave even after the goodbye. And it is fear. Fear will go along because fear is not transformed by love at first sight or second sight. And it is actually, if we analyze it, a very specific fear. We could open again to a forum and discuss that for some hours. But what came into my mind was the fear of an expiration date. I love that. No? If you go to the supermarket and you buy something, you might look at the expiration date. And if the expiration date is over, if you pass the expiration date, are you gonna buy that thing? No. You might think, I'm gonna get it for free because there's a law that they have to give it to you for free if it passed the expiration date. But actually, if you really want something, and this is the last piece in the shelf in the supermarket, and the expiration date has passed today's date, you are actually not happy about that. But that's exactly your experience within your relationships of love, your love relationships as a human being in separation. The point is that love relationship has expired. And that might be a shock for some of you, and others might smile and laugh with me, but it's true. All my love relationships with all human beings, with any being within my mind, has in truth expired. And why has it expired? Because I have expired. You are already expired. And that's really good news. That's the good news that you want to utilize to make a decision and asking, there must be another way. What is another way of looking at this? What is another way of looking at the world I see? What is another way of looking at my love concept. And Jesus really offers us a way that literally transforms, eliminates sight from that relationship idea. He offers us love at no sight, love at last sight, a last reflection of light, of peace, of joy, of love, of happiness. And taking everything with us to our source, to our true home, where we belong, where we are, where we never left. And that is who we are, who you are as the true self. And that love at no sight brings perception to knowledge. To recognize yourself in a true sense is what knowledge is. And as we were saying before, that the first sight was to fall in love, the second sight was to cultivate, to develop love. Now we have arrived, guess what? To be love. Or to be in love without any reference. No reference to the past, no projection unto the future. It is experienced with the transformed mind, literally with no mind. That is what no mind is. No concept involved in the experience. It is experiencing the love of God, no matter the appearance, no matter the form association demonstrates a seeming objective reality. We are looking beyond the meanings that we have given to everyone and everything. It is the experiencing and seeing with the Christ within. It is the sharing of the Christ within with all of yourself. Also with the Christ without, let's say, all the form that you made up in your mind. Now we could bring it together because it is the same. It is the falling in love with yourself, with your true self. This is the reason why we are coming together here. This is the reason for this event, for this festival of miracles. We are ready now to experience ourselves, to fall in love with ourselves. Amen, amen, amen. You see, all what we are talking about is subjective reality. Recognition of myself as my true self. And this is exactly where Jesus starts out to teach us very, very specifically in the way of making us aware that what we have made up for ourselves, that we call misperceptions, they are producing fear. And true perception produces love. But he also states, and this is very early in the textbook in chapter 3, he says that neither misperceptions nor true perceptions bring certainty. Everyone here in your world, you included, you want to be certain because somewhere you know that certainty is of God. Somewhere you know perfectly well that certainty doesn't come from studying or accumulating knowledge. Certainty doesn't come by repetition of the same objective love experience over and over again. It needs a basis that is knowledge, that is knowing, and not perception. Though the true perception, and what does he mean with true perception? True perception comes in alignment with the Holy Spirit, with this tachyon field of light energy that is the guidance from heaven itself. That is the voice that speaks to us of who we truly are. That is the healer, the teacher, the consoler, the one who gives us everything in order to be successful with our transformational experience. It is knowledge, it is this knowing that is the affirmation of truth and goes beyond perception. And you know, everybody is with me. You might have heard in the back that we have here a great festival outside my apartment. The lawn is gonna be cleaned, cut. I might wanna shut the door. And anyway, we have a transition of the translators, right? So I'm just gonna put here for a minute a song and we can make this transition. I'll be right back. So how are we doing? Everything good? Yeah? Okay, great. Okay, let's have a further look at what is offered in this chapter 3 at the beginning of the course, in this third chapter, section, which is called perception versus knowledge. Because this is what we want to undergo for our full transformation of mind, for our recognition who we are. I do like when Jesus is telling me from where all my problems and difficulties as a human being come from. And he mentions also in this section that all the difficulties are coming from not recognizing ourselves, from the lack of self-recognition, and also from not recognizing each other, your brother, and of course, not recognizing God. But he also gives us some definition. And he says, you know, to recognize, what does that even mean? And it is quite interesting that we actually have in the different languages, different expressions. In some languages, it is the same word. In other languages, there are several words for it. But here in his Course in Miracles, he says that to recognize means to know again. And that implies that you knew before. So I remember who I am. I know again. And it implies that that knowledge before perception and all the meanings were given to everything in my mind was the same true knowingness. And he also expresses it in the context, because it is a Course in Miracles, that the miracle itself is still a way of perceiving and is not knowledge. You could say it is kind of a preparation or just an instant glimpse, a seeing for an instant what is really there. Like an intervention of what we experience as reality out of time, and in such an instant for us, for experiencing ourselves beyond the definitions and meanings that we have given ourselves, we experience what a miracle is. But it is not knowledge. Once you know who you are, you have gone beyond miracles, you have gone beyond any way of perception. He brings in context also that when you know, then you do not question. And he even goes into that in various expressions, because he says also when you know, then you have even ceased to ask questions. And as long as you have questions, you actually do not know. And that shouldn't really discourage you to put some questions into the chat, but you should know that. You should know that to ask questions, to have questions, is actually denying knowledge. But questioning illusions, he also tells us, is the first step. But it is the first step of the undoing process. Here in time-space, each and everyone is active in the corrective principle, applying the corrective principle in the correction of the way of thinking. And so that is laid out in time-space on the timeline. That is laid out as the curriculum, the plan of God for your salvation. But knowledge is timeless. Knowledge goes the step further into your timeless nature. Knowledge gives you that experience of love, being love. That would be the same. He uses a word that actually has been edited later on. The word was spiritual eye, and it was then edited into spiritual sight. But that spiritual eye, that inner eye, also in the Eastern tradition we called it the third eye, is, he calls it, that defines it, a means of right perception. And so it is part of the miracle. It is within the domain of the miracle, but not of knowledge, not of revelation. Revelation comes directly from God. If revelation occurs, your entire construct of the self falls apart, collapses in itself, gets lost literally. Now, coming back to that emphasis of to know myself or to know thyself, it is actually, I don't know if you know it, that historically it is a Socratic idea. It was actually, it's called, I wrote it down here, it came from Plato. He was the one who was really starting to teach, know thyself. Know yourself in truth, right? And Plato was a disciple of Socrates. Maybe that might be the reason that our brothers from Greek are so actively participating at this festival, because we are teaching love as knowing thyself, knowing yourself. And I don't know which translation that we are using right now in Greek. That's what I looked up. It would mean, right? Mate ton eaftosu. Correct? That means know thyself, what Plato was teaching. And it was actually a Delphic philosophy. In the course, he says that to know thyself is the goal of the curriculum, regardless of the teacher that you choose, is know thyself. We all know that we can choose whatever teacher. Gottfried just was sharing before in the session his dog on his side, and he would express the amazing nature of that being. That's a teacher. We know our neighbors, our friends, our brothers, our loved ones, ultimately as our teachers. But no matter, regardless of whom we choose or what form we choose. The curriculum is to know our true self. And here in this third section, it is actually part of the 5th paragraph. He says that the instruction is to know thyself and be certain. Remember when we were touching just before that this is the goal that we are looking for and want to experience ourselves in certainty. And we always said, okay, here they are, hello. And we also said that certainty is of God. He expresses it, or he teaches it around, like literally picking us up where we find ourselves in the experience of love, of human love, and of the exchange of love. And he says that when you love someone, so he includes that someone, even within perception in separation. If you love someone, you have perceived him as he is. It is that love that allows a perception and understanding as who that someone is. And that is the basis that makes it possible for us to know him, to know that someone. You see, knowing thyself follows a true perception. But here's also an expression I will use here, the version of the original version of the urtext. He says then, but it is not until you recognize him that you know him. And to recognize goes already as the recognition that that someone is also a perfect creation of God. That someone, that neighbor, is the Holy Son of God, is the Christ standing next to you. And something that is only in the urtext described is expressed, only then are you able to stop asking questions about him. Only then. Only when I recognize you, my brother, my beloved standing next to me, and get to know you in a true way. That allows me to stop asking questions. And so as long as we are asking questions, because the ultimate questions about us is actually projected as questions, asking questions about God, it means that you do not know your brother and you do not know God. Certainty that is of God does not require action. When you are saying that you are acting on the basis of knowledge, I'm reading here from this section. Then he says you're really confusing perception with cognition, was the first word. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. I will go into that also for a moment. It's a confusion of knowledge with perception. And so that is all well interrelated. Perception, doing, acting, and the miracles. But knowledge is the essential recognition beyond any perception and acting or doing, because it is a result of revelation. And it induces, he says, it induces only thinking. Perception involves the body, as we were already saying as examples, love at first sight or second sight, objective reality. But knowledge comes from the altar within, from the source within, and is timeless. And he makes clear that to perceive the truth is not the same as to know it. And we are also active in exchanging our experiences, our spiritual experiences, our transformative experiences. And we are also active in feeling and perceiving the soul of any being and to communicate on that level. But to perceive the truth is not the same as to know it. If you know thyself, if you know who you are, you could care less about what you perceive, what perception offers you, and what it means. You take it as what it is, and you laugh at it, you enjoy it, you forgive it, you integrate it in the recognition and remembrance that I see nothing as it is now. Nothing I see means anything, but beyond that, you let the light shine through it, and you become willing to see the light that is there, in it, behind it, always waiting to be recognized. And that is really when our mind is knowing. Know God and accept His certainty. We are talking here about a perfect certainty, not a certainty that the ego makes up and pretends to know something for certain. That's very much subject to doubt, but perfect certainty. It is the alignment with creative thought. And because I mentioned it, I want to look with you. I have here my Urtext manuscript. Right. There is a passage which has been completely edited out of, so it is not found in the edited versions of A Course in Miracles, but it was more or less at the dictated where we find in the edited version the end of chapter 3, section 5, right? And he talks here about a very well-known philosopher. Most of us will know Descartes, the French philosopher, right? And I was already mentioning it before. Descartes was, in his teaching, it was I think, therefore I am. And Jesus was talking about that in context of transforming perception and perceptual mind to knowingness and knowledge. Cogito ergo sum, I already mentioned it, right? And so he said here that Descartes began with doubting the existence of everything. So that would include also where I said that friend that is always along, as long as there is objective reality, fear, right? You would doubt your fear or doubt what fear presents you in the dream. So he began with doubting the existence of everything, but he made one exception, and that was except himself. Somehow he must have known that he exists as thought, that there is a true thought in him that he is, that cannot be doubted or is not subject of doubt. But he insisted that his own existence was not open to doubt, and rebuilt his entire thought system on this one premise: I think, therefore I am. Now I pause a moment here because it is kind of, okay, what does that really mean, right? I think, therefore I am. What stands that therefore? For what does that stand? The therefore, ergo in Latin, is like equals. If you have an equation in mathematics, then you have the equal sign. I think equals I am. What stands I am for? I am is who you are, being. In other words, thinking is being. That is your equation in your recognition of true self. You're thinking, my mind holds only what I think with God. It shows me the way of being the light of the world. It shows me the way of remembering what I'm supposed to know of myself. Jesus said further on, it is noteworthy that he arrived at accepting the entire system he originally doubted solely on the basis of this one piece of knowledge. I think, therefore I am. But he also gives a little insight what was going on in the mind of Descartes. And he says there was a distinct shift in his own perception. That's what we are talking about by using and practicing A Course in Miracles. That shift of perception, that change of perception. And so we could say not only that A Course in Miracles is a study plan for miracles, but the English word course also indicates a direction, a way. You chose and you decided for a way in miracles, for a way to arrive and to clean everything of your mind, to know yourself. Jesus says further that he no longer really questioned the reality of what he perceived. He no longer questioned that. Why? Because he knew he was there. Because he knew that he was in the here and now. You are here, you are now. He knew, Descartes knew that he was present. You know now, that's all you can know, that you are here, that you are present. It's actually the main teaching of my mighty companion and host today, Gregor. Thank you so much. Wonderful expressions of this demonstration of here and now, knowingness to be here. And Jesus says further that we mentioned before, and he uses here Bill Thetford in the urtext as the companion of Helen Schackman described. We mentioned that you are not sure of this, and that is why we suggested that you concentrate on, Lord, here I am. And you can repeat that after me. Lord, here I am. By the way, it is the first time after, right, this is chapter 3, section 5, that Jesus uses the word we. And he means most probably the we as the consortium from out of time, or those who know themselves. He also says that the teacher is unlikely to be effective unless he begins with being there, unless he begins with being present. And we have shared that in several sessions before. We are here to just join in light, to be present and experience the light of creation, the light of who we are. And that is also not really something that we could do because it's already done. It is just a remembrance. We are already and eternally joined in the creative light. Lord, here I am. And here's a most amazing expression. And then we will take also a moment to really share just by using some music and just bring that into full experience. You will lose all your fear of teaching and relating in any form. So he puts it together. The fear of teaching, the fear of demonstrating, showing you in that light, and also the fear of relating in any form, in all of your relationships, once you know who you are. To know who I am is all that is required of this course. It doesn't really care about the pure knowledge of it, but it guides us and directs us to know who we are. And he finishes up by saying, there is no point whatever in remaining in the prison of believing that this is up to you. you do not exist in different lights. You do not exist, brother, in limited thought forms of your own making. It is this belief which has confused you about your own reality. Why would you want to remain so obscure to yourself? And this shows us what this Course in Miracles also gives emphasis. It is about the sorting out of the true from the false. It is about the sorting out the love from the fear, or you could say it vice versa, sorting out the fear so that only love is there. It is the sorting out of all ego thoughts from the Christ consciousness. And there was... Hello. And there was in the, that has been mentioned also before, at the end of the first chapter in the 6th section, you know, and it was actually David mentioning it yesterday also in his session, that love casts out fear. Interesting, in the Urtext version, he dictated it first with the word if that had been edited out. But he says that in this sorting out the false from the true, if perfect love casts out fear, and if fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But, and here comes the solution, only perfect love really exists. That is that you know what you are, that you know to be love. And therefore, he concludes, if there is fear, it creates a state which doesn't exist. And that is what Descartes was investigating. That state that doesn't exist is really the consciousness or the I sense of the human experience. See, he uses here twice, and if fear exists, if there is fear, and he puts it on the scale. Only perfect love is. Only perfect love really exists. And that is where we arrive. And all that is left for me is to open that space up to sharing that experience, because we are experiencing ourselves in immense light, in a lot of light. And my heart goes out and is open, receiving you, seeing you, recognizing you as that light of creation, accepting for myself as God created me. No longer be willing to pretend as if those self-made meanings of dream images or dream realities could define who I am or who we are, or would be our guide on the way home. Our guide to the way home is the teacher, the one teacher, is the light. Call him Holy Spirit, call him Jesus, call him Christ, call him Krishna, it doesn't matter. But find him within yourself as being there, being present now, in you, as you, forever and forever. Timelessness is what eternity is. That's what you are as the perfect creation of God. That is the last judgment that God gives to his son. You are as I created you. You are whole. You are perfect. You are free of guilt and sin. We are that one self. So with your permission, we're gonna just share a few songs and just join in light in that celebration, that this festival of miracles, this event that thanks to Andreas and all his helpers, thanks to you, each and every one being present here, has carved out of, out of a corner in the universe, and we remember it together. Yes, this is where we want to be. This is what we want to join. Thank you, my dear ones. Here are some songs I have brought with you. And remember, the lawnmower guy is part of it. I love you. Hey guys, cheers.